Born Again is an episode of The X-Files that falls under the category of my favorite X-Files episode genres, and that's Get Your Shit Wrecked by Tweens. But first, the cold open. The cold open begins with Cynthia from Seinfeld encountering a kid whose RBF could, I swear to God, cut diamonds. This kid is named Michelle Bishop, and she's like if Terminator met My Little Pony. She is just head empty, kill problematic himbos. And I just want to say that this kid is named Andrea Libman, and she grew up to play both Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy, who also, fun fact, are psychic as fuck. At one point, Maggie, Detective Lazard, ask Michelle, there's no reason to be scared, as a detective named Detective Barbala comes in to interrogate her, and Michelle's face says it all. Why the fuck should I be scared? As soon as Detective Lazard turns her back, Michelle pitches him out the window with her telekinetic powers. And then we get the credits. At this point, I want to say that Lazard and Scully are just made for each other, because the way Lazard jumps and runs at the sound of Barbala hitting a car underneath the window of the interrogation room is just so on point with what Scully does with Mulder. They should definitely get together. So, at this point, Lazard tells them that she met this kid, and she was the last person to see Barbala alive, and she was the only person in the room with him when he did his swan dive from the station house upstairs room. So they go to talk to Michelle at her house, and boy, here we get some 90s technology, pretending like it is the end-all and be-all of technology, one of my favorite X-Files trope. Mulder asked the guy running the computer to give the composite drawing a funny mustache, which is a very cute moment, which I think Mulder crafted just to impress Scully with, like, his parental skills. So Michelle giggles, the computer cuts out because of her telekinetic powers, and she goes right back to RBF, as if to say, yes, Himbo Mulder, I have decided to spare your life, because you taught me joy. We cut to Scully talking to Mrs. Bishop, Michelle's mom, and I just want to say, lady, you fucking suck. She tells a very amusing story about how Michelle's latest nanny was, quote, locked in the wine cellar, and I think that had less to do with Michelle and more to do with the nanny. She also tells Scully, Michelle isn't like the other girls. She's a cool girl. And I always look at this exchange between Scully and Michelle's mom as like a very dark and disturbing peek into Scully's childhood, because the episode Christmas Carol and Emily teaches us that Scully is also psychic and telekinetic as fuck. So I almost think Scully kind of went through the same things that little Michelle went through in her childhood, and watching the episode in that light just makes it 20 times more depressing. So every time I watch this, so then they go outside and Michelle is upstairs and throws this origami creature down to Mulder, who picks it up and says, oh, it's a hawk or a falcon. And I'm like, you dumb fuck, it's a crane. Anyone can do that who has had any experience with origami. So Michelle's mom is like, oh, woe is me, I have no idea why this 8-year-old child is acting in such a strange way. And every time characters in the X-Files like pose this question about their 8-year-olds, I always think, like, were the writers of the X-Files ever around an 8-year-old child? Because I don't know if you know this about 8-year-olds, but for me, I was an 8-year-old girl at one point, and I also raised an 8-year-old girl. 8-year-olds are just freaking weird, okay? They're just crazy. When I was 8 years old, I had this phase where I would check out books about serial killers from the library and just binge them. My daughter, when she was 8 years old, went through this phase where she obsessively researched the making of the movie The Shining. 8-year-olds are weird, X-Files. They're not supernatural, they're just crazy. Also, as Mulder and Scully are leaving the Bishop's house, I love how Mulder and Scully, when they're talking about the most mundane shit, have to stand like a quarter inch from each other's face, like they're about to make out. But as soon as they're talking about, I don't know, sensitive and pertinent and classified information to an FBI case, they have to shout it across a fucking Home Depot parking lot. Also, Mulder gets so hard when Scully mentions specific paranormal things. And that is so funny. Like, Scully's like, Mulder, are you suggesting that Michelle Bishop has telekinetic powers that produces, like, high static energy? And she's so damn specific about it. And that is so funny because Scully doesn't give a fuck about paranormal things. Just, you're like, Scully, what's your opinion on reincarnation grudges? And she's like, I don't fucking know. I have to wash my hair. You know, why should I care about that? The only time she makes any bother to mention the specifics of paranormal shit is when Mulder's around, and it's just to give him an erection. So Mulder pulls out a doll that Michelle's therapist gave him, and every time I see Mulder looking at this, like, baby doll, I'm like, Mulder, show us on the doll where the reticulin touched you. So, right after Mulder shames Michelle's therapist about giving her meds to control her behavior, right after those words leave his mouth, he starts talking about, has Michelle exhibited any unexplained phenomenon? And I'm like, Mulder, you're the biggest fucking hypocrite in the universe. We cut to Scully doing an autopsy of Barbala, and she is very much laying on thick on the autopsy recording about how Barbala had these, like, lesions caused by telekinetic powers. And she's just edging Mulder as she's making this autopsy tape recording. She's just edging him. She's like, Mulder, I found the lesions on Barbala's body. But, Mulder, I have to do further tissue analysis. Like, she always follows it up with that little, like, epilogue of, like, because she's edging him. She doesn't just want to take him over into the orgasm. She wants to just, like, get him right there and then be like, oh, no, just wait. Also, Detective Lazard can rock a vest only to the point I have seen Monique from Law and Order SVU rock a vest. Those two ladies need to get together. They can have a threesome with Scully. Also, as soon as Lazard starts, like, pulling out the 5,000% vest game in this episode, Scully and Michelle just fall in lockstep. They also start pulling out the rocking vests. It's kind of like when women sync their periods. I think that's what's happening here. Like, they're just all calling each other at night. They're like, hey girl, you gonna wear a vest? I'm gonna wear a vest too. So then Lazard shows Scully this picture of Charlie Morris, who's this deceased cop who looks like the composite drawing that Michelle gave Mulder. And she says, Lazarus like, hey, Scully, listen, if this kid saw this guy, she saw a ghost. And I'm like, oh, okay, so now it's ghost. It was reincarnation, and then it was psychic children. Now it's ghost. Now it's fucking ghost. Okay, can we just make up our fucking minds? Okay, they go and see Tony Fiore, and he was this guy who was Charlie Officer's partner back in the day. And he says this incredibly racist comment, which makes me hate him right off the bat, and I absolutely will not repeat it. It's terrible. 1994, damn it. Shit. They could get away with some problematic ass shit on television. So, At this point, his wife comes out and he says, "Oh, my wife's sleeping." And Scully tells Mulder, like, "No, that bitch wasn't sleeping. I saw baking flour on her hands." And at this point, I'm like, if Mulder and Scully got to raise their teenage child, that teenage child would get away with absolutely fucking not a thing. Like, you would try to, like, be bullshitting your mom, Dana Scully, and she would just be like, "Oh, you weren't at Makeout Point? Well, why is the soil on your shoe the exact clay density as the soil at Makeout Point?" Like, you would be whipped. You'd be fucking whipped as a teen. So, Tony Fiore goes to see this motherfucker named Leon Felder, and they were the two people who set up Charlie Morris, because he was going to snitch on them for taking this drug money they confiscated, and so they killed him. And these two guys are the worst actors on this fucking show. They are so funny. Let me read you some of the things they say. At one point, the guy playing Leon Felder looks at Tony and he says, "Tony, you're acting like a little bug." And then Felder says, "What should we do with the money, Tony? Give it to the Little Sisters of Charity?" They sound like horrible background characters on Rocky. And then at one point, Tony tells Felder, he's like, take your share of the money, Leon, and go lie on a beach in Costa Rica." So then Felder, like, goes into this, like, really weird anecdote about how, like, "Hey, Tony, what if your leg got broke? What if you fell out a damn window?" And I'm like, are you trying to sell insurance to Tony? Because that's what Leon's had to do after he left the force. So then we see Felder leave. There's this very weird scene where, like, Felder is accosted by this, like, old homeless lady. And I'm like, Felder completely channels the X-Files writers, how they feel about homeless people. He's like, "Oh, fuck you, homeless person." The show fucking hates homeless people. So I just want to say, like, Leon Felder is a very cavalier motherfucker. Like, to know a psychokinetic child is out for his blood, and he's just gonna take the bus. Because I don't know if you guys know this about the X-Files. The most grisly murders on the show, the most grisly deaths, happen on public transport. So this guy's just gonna, like, blithely get on a city bus, knowing this psychokinetic child is out to get him. So wouldn't you know it, his scarf, by means of 1994 practical effects, is twined around the bus's handlebar, and this guy basically dies the way the dog dies in National Lampoon's Family Vacation. So, also, just the confidence of this guy to get on public transport when he knows a psychokinetic killer's after him and can just make his death look like an accident. That is the white man level of confidence I wish I had even a quarter of. So, the next note I wrote is Scully's legs. She knows how to use them. We go back to the station house in Buffalo, and Scully, yeah, her legs can fucking shut down that bullpen. Michelle's mom is there, and she's in tears, and Detective Lazard pulls Mulder away, and she's like, "Hey, can we talk shit about Ghost while this woman's life is literally falling apart before our very eyes?" So, then we see, like, Mulder having this chalkboard, and he's, like, crossing off the names of all these problematic cops that Michelle has taken out, and I'm like, wow, it's Kill Bill for himbos. Literally Kill Bill. We get to see Jillian's baby bump, which is so cute. Mulder goes to the Fiore's house, and he's looking at the fish tank, and there's a lot of Finding Nemo cameos in season 1 of the X-Files. So we see Bubbles from Finding Nemo in this scene, just like we saw Dory and Edie and the sharks from the Fisher Friends Not Food support group. And we meet Anita Fiore, the woman who, aka, paints red flags green, as I wrote down in my notes. This woman, anything her problematic husband can throw at her, any red flag he can wave over her head, she will immediately take that green can of spray paint and spray paint that fucker green. They ask her like, hey, have you noticed any of Tony's like cop friends being super fucking sketchy? And she's like, we don't socialize with cops. And like, that'd be a fucking red flag to me, because why wouldn't Fiore want to like introduce his wife to people he works with? Then Miss Fiore does my favorite thing in this episode, and she shows them her deceased husband, Charlie Morris, who's the guy Fiore murdered along with his friends, his origami collection. And there's a painting of like Noah's Ark, the animals on Noah's Ark behind it, and she's like, the only animal my husband Charlie didn't make was the giraffe. And then she points to the giraffe on the painting and says, look, that's a giraffe. Like, Mulder and Scully don't fucking know what a giraffe is. So I always want Mulder and Scully like to be leaving the house and be like, wow, Mulder, did you know what a giraffe looked like? I didn't. He's like, yeah, that was really cool, Scully. Like she's really trying to show them what a giraffe is. I love that. Scully again turns on the paranormal specific jargon. Mulder is pitching a fucking tent. Then they do regression hypnosis on Michelle, and when I was 11 years old watching this episode for the first time, this scene scared the actual piss out of me. The regression hypnotist is a scary ass motherfucker. At one point he says, she's like, I can't trust you, and he's like, you can trust me, and I'm like, girl, bye. Then Michelle's therapist comes running up to Michelle's mom, and she's like, if you keep doing this, you are just going to irreversibly traumatize your kid. And then Mulder really tells Michelle's mom, like, no, let's just have some child endangerment. Just so, not because he could take this information to a jury, even if a jury would believe him. No, just because it would make Mulder feel better that he would have proof of reincarnation. Like, that's it. That's all Mulder wants. Like, he doesn't care how much this kid's traumatized. He doesn't care how much her family suffers. He doesn't care how much Fiore's family suffers. He just wants his ego to feel better. So I'm like, Mulder, you fucking toxic, man. I wish Michelle would roll your ass for a minute, man. Scully comes out and chews his ass out, and she's like, look, man, it's cute. You want to, like, prove the supernatural, but no jury in this country's gonna fucking listen to us if we bring them that. And I'm 100% on her side. She has a quote that says, sometimes looking for extreme possibilities makes you blind to the probable explanation right in front of you. I love the way Scully's dropping these gems of advice in season 1. I am here for it. So, Scully's like, absolutely yes, it's reincarnation. Even though he has zero evidence of that, except something an 8-year-old girl said in a regression hypnosis session. And I'm like, Mulder, 5 episodes ago, 2 8-year-old girls completely bullshitted your ass. And you just seem to have, you know, amnesia about that, my guy. So then, we go to the Fiore's house, like, for the final showdown. Tony Fiore has gotten the money that was hidden 10 years ago when they murdered Charlie and got this confiscated drug money. And he's come back to his house to get Anita. Anita says the funniest fucking thing I've ever heard. She looks at Tony and she says, why would anyone want to hurt you? And I'm like, gee, woman, I can't even think of one reason, can you? And we see Michelle staring in the window like the fucking face on The Exorcist. So then Michelle comes in and she wraps, with her telekinetic power, she wraps an extension cord around Tony like a character in a Bugs Bunny cartoon and trips him. And the 90s effects makes the extension cord look like it's just attacking his leg like a fucking cobra. I love this 90s, 1994 X-Files practical effects. When the show when it was about 2000 and the show actually started using like CGI effects, it felt wrong. Like, these 90s effects suck, but they're just fill me with a kind of nostalgic joy I can't put into words. So then, Michelle just starts to mess with Tony. She just starts to, like, torture him. She throws vases at him. She throws knickknacks at him. When Mulder breaks into the house, he dodges one of the knickknacks in the most comedic way. I mean, like, nice reflexes to company. And it's the fact that she's just toying with Fiore. She killed Felder and Barbala like it was fucking nothing. She could probably kill Fiore by just thinking hard about him and melting his brain out through his nose. But no, she's really gonna stretch this out and torture him, and that just makes it 10 times scarier. I love you, Michelle. I wish this episode had just made you this, like, badass avenging angel. And I wish when you had grown up, you had come back in the X-Files revival. Boy, wasn't it great how the X-Files revival, like, brought back these characters from episodes that, like, promised us a sequel episode. And the revival did all of that and was wonderful and got all these great reviews with fans. Yeah, me too. So, Fiore and Anita see this, like, dead-ass 8-year-old in their living room, just standing there, blowing up their aquarium. And they immediately leap to, this is reincarnated Charlie Morris. And I'm like, neither of them knew Michelle was connected to this case in any fucking way. But that's what they're going to leap to. If I saw this, I would say, what is an 8-year-old doing in my house and why is she trying to kill me? So, Michelle blows up the aquarium where Charlie was drowned. And I know she has apparently she has bad memories around that, if you want to, believe Mulder's bullshit reincarnation theory. But every time I'm like, Michelle, why the fuck you want to take this out on the fish? Fiore is a piece of trash man the world could do without. And you had no qualms killing Felder. You had no qualms killing Barbala. Why do you want to kill Bubbles and the gang from Finding Nemo? Goddamn, Michelle, haven't they been traumatized by little girls enough? I also love the way Michelle just dead-ass, fucking murders people in her denim vest and kids. That's hard, man. At the last scene, like, we have a little coda. And I miss this time in the X-Files where they were like, oh, case file, blah, 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 blah. And they would just, like, write this little, like, epilogue to the episode, disguised as Mulder and Scully's love poetry to each other. And Mulder's, like, just strolling around the swimming pool with Michelle's mom, looking at Michelle taking her swimming lesson. I'm like, why the fuck would Miss Bishop let Mulder back on her property or around her child? So then, of course, the episode completes with Mulder being like, case file, blah, 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 unexplained. And I always just want it to cut to Mr. Skinner in his office, and he's reading the case report, and it gets to the part where it says, case file status, unexplained. And Skinner just being like, yeah, and what else is fucking new?